A man reached out to open the fridge, but suddenly saw an assassin lunging at him. He immediately realized that his cover had been blown and started wildly throwing cans at the assassin. When the attacker got close, he kicked him hard to the ground. Then Dan casually grabbed a pack of diapers, and in front of everyone's shocked eyes, he quickly walked to the front desk to check out. As a former top-level assassin, he knew this was far from over. Next, Dan smoothly drifted back home. He hurried to the staircase, pulled out a long, hidden duffel bag filled with weapons and expired passports. To get his wife and kids out of danger, Dan immediately called his all-capable partner Augie, asking him to prepare international passports for the whole family. Meanwhile, Dan rushed to his daughter's school, planning to pick her up immediately. But when he entered the classroom, she was nowhere to be seen. Luckily, relying on his knowledge of his daughter, he roughly guessed where she might be. Soon, Dan found his daughter and took her with him before the assassin could catch up. He still had to find his son and wife first. Fortunately, his son was just at a friend's house playing video games. After receiving a message from his friend, he panicked about getting scolded by his father and ran out. Seeing his son safe, Dan quickly gathered both kids and set out to find his wife Jessica. But halfway there, Dan noticed a car following them. To see if it was the assassin, he deliberately drove into a tunnel as a test. Luckily, the car didn't follow. Dan exhaled in relief and successfully reunited with his wife, telling the kids they were going on a trip. He didn't explain much to his wife, just urged her to quickly get into the car, but it was already too late. The assassin had anticipated his move, laying an ambush to take them all out at once. Just then, a bus happened to pass by, and Dan vanished behind its shadow. When the assassin reached the garage, Dan immediately started the car and drove down another route. But they hadn't gone far when the assassin caught up from behind, trying to force Dan's car to stop. In a critical moment, Dan made a sharp drift at a fork and drove down a narrow alley. He suddenly realized that these enemies always knew his exact location. They must have installed a tracker on his car. To shake off the tail completely, Dan drove to his workplace's garage and closed the door. The moment he entered, he pretended to inspect a car, quickly lifted the chassis and found the tracker in a matter of seconds. To avoid suspicion, Dan secretly moved the tracker to a boastful colleague's car. The colleague gave him a knowing look and slammed the gas and sped onto the highway, successfully drawing the assassin away. After losing the threat, Dan drove his family straight to Las Vegas. What he didn't know was that the head of the assassin organization, McCaffrey, had already arrived at his former home. Seeing Dan's family happy together, McCaffrey flew into a rage and immediately issued a kill order. Meanwhile, after a long, grueling journey, Dan and his family finally reached Las Vegas. To ease their exhaustion, he booked a presidential suite and even arranged a romantic candlelit dinner. But unexpectedly, when they returned to the room full and satisfied, a red dot had already locked onto Dan's forehead.